Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In Cutoff Genes.
Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
I am Richard Castle, the co-host, producer, and jingler.
Jingle,
I'm a little
Rich.
embarrassed, Julie, because now that we have this theme song, I'm not a singer. Like, I'm singing on there, but I'm a little, when I hear my own voice, I go, oh.
You're every man.
I'm every man.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a little character.
I like that you're singing because people know your voice, and I think it'll make them smile.
Oh, does it make you smile?
Of course it does.
Does it make you laugh?
Yeah. Like every time I hear us laugh, I laugh again.
So, Julie, I have to ask you a question.
What's your question?
Why are you haunting me every day when I don't see you?
That is my way.
So, as you know, because your husband and son probably told you, I ran into your husband and son.
Yes, I received a text about it.
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
So get this, folks. I'm out for lunch one day. Well, I'm usually out to lunch, but I was literally out to lunch. And I have never met Julie's son in person, but I have seen her son on, Facebook, and she's showed me pictures. And so I'm at this restaurant, and I look over, I'm like, that's got to be Julie's son. And so I went over and introduced myself to him and to your husband, who, I met your husband maybe 30 years ago, but only briefly, so I wouldn't have recognized him. But it was so funny, and they looked at me like, who's this strange man who knows our names?
They loved it.
But so you knew about that.
I did.
But then like 2 days later, and you don't know this, I was at Starbucks. I walked my dog over to the Starbucks, and who do I run into but Renee?
Oh.
Renee, who used to be on our podcast, and
that makes sense because that Starbucks is right in between both of your apartments.
Yes, and so she's there with her dog, and I'm there with my dog.
Tugboat.
Yes,
Sure.
And I was just at the window, and then I hear someone say, "I know you." It's Renee. And it was very sweet. It was nice to see her.
Oh, that's good.
And she said some lovely things about our podcast. So
Oh,
she's
good.
still listening, even though she can't be on it. She's got a full-time job, and she has her own podcast.
so busy.
She's a very busy lady. But we miss you, Renee, and it was lovely to see you. And all I could think of was, everywhere I go now, I run into people that know Julie.
That I am the conduit. It's 6 degrees of Julie Dixon Jackson.
I guess so.
Wow. Yeah, I get to see Renee a little bit lately because my daughter is home from college for the summer.
Yes.
And she's walking tugboat for Renee a lot.
Oh, that's
because Renee
nice.
is not at the house during the day.
Right.
And and they hang out because
Well, Renee looked fabulous. She'd just
As
come from
always.
work, and she looked great. And I was like, "Oh my God, this really works for you. This not being on our podcast." I'm going to have to quit just
Smartest
so I can
thing
start.
she ever did.
Just so I can start looking good.
Is that what I need to do?
No, I've got a face for radio, face for podcasting.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I have a corrections corner, update corner, get a clarification corner.
Oh my God,
we have so many corners.
We got a lot. We need one more corner.
We're an octagon.
Let's cover some corners, Julie. Let's start.
Okay, so we were talking about get off the stick when I went off on what the heck does
Yes,
that
I
mean?
said, somebody needed to get off the stick, and you didn't know what it meant, and I said it meant something like somebody needs to get off their butt and get moving.
Yeah, which is essentially what it means. There are two versions of it. Some regions say get on the stick.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So of course I looked it up.
Looked up what the stick is.
Yeah, I just Googled get off the stick. And some meanings from Google say stop resting on the shovel handle or spear and get to work. Get off the stick because you're resting on the
okay.
stick. My husband said the same thing.
Get off the stick or get on the stick?
No, I didn't talk to my husband about this. I'm lying, actually.
Why are you lying to me all the time, Julie?
Well, there's something you should know about me, and it's time I shared that I'm a pathological liar.
No, but when you didn't know it, sometimes I say things that are very New England, and I don't really. I mean, I've been away from New England for many years, but I don't know whether get off the stick.
I think it's a mostly East Coast thing,
Yes.
certainly, and it's probably a European thing.
For instance, I say when I see what you call a drinking fountain,
You call it a bubbler?
I call it a bubbler, a water bubbler.
That's weird.
Yeah, I even say it to
because there are no bubbles in it.
No, there's no bubbles.
Yeah.
But the water kind of bubbles up
Yeah.
when you press the button.
That's true.
I don't know the origin of that.
What do you call a soft drink?
Oh, I remember calling it a tonic.
A tonic?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I don't mean it's funny. I never thought of a tonic as something medical.
You called it a tonic?
Yeah. I mean, I don't call it that now.
I've never heard that. I mean, you know what? I think I probably heard that was like in our town.
Which was said in New England.
I know.
Yeah. Well, in my school, when you would go to the cafeteria, or as we called it, the cafeterium, because it was an auditorium and a cafeteria.
Yes, we had a classatorium.
Yeah. Okay. We would go to lunch, and you could either get yourself a soda, a tonic, or you would go and just get some water from the water bubbler, or just the bubbler.
I love it.
And you know what else?
What?
What do you call those little things that you put on your ice cream? They're like little chocolate candies.
Okay, in Australia they're called hundreds and thousands.
Oh,
that's new for
I've
you.
not heard that.
Right here they're called in California they're
chocolate
called
sprinkles.
Sprinkles, yes,
and we call them Jimmies.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and I don't know why. I honestly do not know why they're called Jimmies.
Who is this Jimmy they're referring to?
Well, we used to have a thing called the Jimmy Fund, which I'm sure is still in existence in Boston, and it was
Who's Jimmy?
It was some kid, and it was they always showed it before the movie and it was
just like, Jimmy himself needed all this money.
It was called the Jimmy Fund, and they would pass around a little cup to put in coins. But I don't think that's the same Jimmy that you would sprinkle on your ice cream. I think there's more than one Jimmy.
I have an appointment with Google this afternoon.
I guess so. You know what? And it's funny that I could get this far in life without ever really knowing what the origin of either of those.
Yeah, I need to know everything.
You just sort of accept it. Like, oh, I put Jimmy's on my ice cream, or when I get my Fribble from Friendly's. Oh, I have to say, okay, so somebody on the Facebook group put a picture of a Fribble, and I nearly licked my phone when I saw it. A Fribble is for you folks.
Yes, it was one of our New England listeners, I believe.
Yes, and I was very appreciative of that.
Or maybe not. Maybe it was somebody in the South. Oh,
I think somebody said that there was one Friendly's in Florida or something,
yes.
but that most of them were in New England.
Yes.
I believe this woman was in New England, and I appreciated it, and it made me miss my home back there very much. And
so you jumped on a plane immediately, and
I could have jumped on a train, but it would take me a week to get there.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see what else. Ooh, here's an update. Remember when we were talking about? I'm talking so slowly because I'm scrolling to it, and I think I went past it. Delphine Boel. Does this sound familiar?
She's such a Luddite that she's actually has a scroll, like it's a paper scroll, and she's just rolled it down to the floor, and she's trying to find that information.
On this scroll. At least I use the quiet paper. Okay, so here's an update. A rebound in the case between Delphine Boel and King Albert II. Remember this, you guys, from Brussels?
Oh my God, we're going way back.
I know, but there's, I like to put a button on things. So King Albert II of Brussels was accused of being the biological father of Delphine Boel, who had a years-long affair with her mother. And he didn't want to take a DNA test. And he had resigned as king, or abdicated, I guess.
Yeah, because he didn't want to find out if he had any Brussels sprouts. I'm sorry. Someone had to say it, Julie, and it's usually me.
That is my most favorite one ever. And also delicious. Okay, so here's the update. Oh, so he announced that he has submitted to a DNA test.
Oh, okay.
Here's the announcement, everyone. After having taken note...
Oh, Renee, I miss you.
Here she is. After having taken note of the judgment of the Brussels Court of Appeal rendered on May 16th, His Majesty King Albert has decided to submit to the expertise ordered by the Court of Appeal. It further noted that the court decided that the conclusions of this expertise would remain strictly confidential until a new court decision. The judgments of the Court of Appeal of June 7th and 25th of October 2018, the subject of an appeal in cassation. Okay, so cassation,
Why don't
I guess...
you just encapsulate what you just said, because I have no idea what you just said.
Okay, well, because I was going to get to that.
Yes.
I was just reading what they said. So a cassation is, I guess, what happens while they're rendering a decision on something, and there was something else that they were... an appeal that was being decided upon, which is the cassation. So he's not going to give the results until he knows what the results of the cassation are.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
And that is different than a castration, which he would not be able to have any sprouts if that was the
exactly.
case.
And this would the point would be moot.
There'd be no point.
Indeed.
Stay all night, folks.
Yes.
Try the steak.
We're here all week. Okay.
Tip your waiters.
So basically, he's taken the test, but the results are not going to be released and may not be released, depending on the results of the appeal.
Well, I mean, we may not know, but Delphine will know, because she'll probably get some kind of
notification if it's Ancestry.
Well, I mean,
that's a good question.
Are they looking for Are they looking for money, or are they just looking for the truth?
Well, we assume, and I'm sure she says she's looking for truth, but we'll find out for sure after the fact.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, if Delphine starts riding around in a new Cadillac, we might.
I don't think they have Cadillacs in Belgium.
Why wouldn't they? Well, you know
they have. Wait, what do they have? Peugeots.
Peugeot. If Delphine starts riding around in a new Peugeot, then I think we have the answer.
Indeed.
If she starts eating Brussels sprouts and having them delivered, a lifetime supply of Brussels sprouts.
I have a story actually for later that relates to this subject that we'll get to.
It's always later with you, Julie. It's never now. I want to know now.
Slow and steady wins the race, Richard.
This is true.
Yes.
That's why
okay.
I've never won a race in my life.
Me too. And I am slow, but not very steady.
I won the Name the Bunny contest at Maplewood Country Day Camp. That was the last thing I won.
Oh, what did you name it? I have to know.
Yeah. Oh, I was so original and clever.
Ears?
Fluffy and Mittens, which tells me literally those names were chosen out of a hat, or my name was chosen out of a hat,
yes,
and it wasn't because of creativity.
Yes. Or whoever was running the contest.
But for the rest of their very short lives, those rabbits were named Fluffy and Mittens.
Were they boiled?
No, I think that, honestly, I lost track of them once summer camp was
You
over.
did?
I didn't
You didn't
own
check
them.
in on Fluffy and Mittens?
Of course I did. I got extra powwow for that. Powwow was at the end of the day. God, all these New England things, we have a lot of weird names. Powwow.
I wonder if they're allowed to still say that, with cultural misappropriation.
Well, if longtime listeners remember, this is the day camp where we called our counselors uncle and aunt. But powwow at the end of the day there was nothing dirty about it. Powwow was they gave us ice cream at the end of the day, or
candy. I didn't think there was something dirty about it. I was just thinking that it might be using the term powwow might be.
Well, I mean, if I said, my counselor, Uncle Hal at Maplewood Country Day Camp gave me extra powwow, somebody might take it the wrong way.
Fair enough.
I just want to clarify, people, that in the 70s, this was all good, clean fun.
Everything was good, clean fun in the 70s.
We didn't know that.
Actually, not everything was good, clean fun. We just didn't know about it all. Yeah.
Well, it was a great time, and I went there for 5 years, and I got my 5-year pen and pencil set, and that was it.
Good for you. Good for you. All right. One more announcement.
Yes.
Ancestry hits 15 million DNA testers.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
They're thrilled to celebrate the groundbreaking Ancestry milestone with all of you. More than 15 million customers have received DNA results. Yay.
So that means that with all of those people, things are getting more accurate. There's more...
things are getting more accurate, and there are way more fish in the pond.
That's a lot of fish.
It's a lot of fish.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good for them,
Yep.
and good for us for being able to. Well, us meaning you, because I don't
Yeah,
have a.
good for me.
I have not done a DNA
Literally just good for me.
test. Just for you.
Or any genetic genealogist or anyone who wants truth.
Well, I want my truth, but I want it gently, because I think I told you.
Tell it to me gently.
I like the idea of truth, but I don't know if I really want to know the truth,
Truer words were never spoken.
Well, there's certain things in my past, or my past, but like my parents' past, that I almost don't want to know.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Although I always want to know the truth.
I know, there is that. But
yeah.
It's harder once they're gone and you can't ask them, or they can't tell you the story.
They can't tell you their side of the story.
Yeah.
You can only go by hearsay. That's true. I find a lot of my clients, when I'm dealing with their potential family, that you're opening a can of worms up that you didn't realize you were opening sometimes. I have to remind my clients a lot to make sure you keep your boundaries up. Because you don't know these people. First of all, you're related to them, but you don't know what their story is, and you don't know what, how it's going to, just like they're probably thinking about you, because it's interesting how so many biological families cite an adoptee trying to come into the family because they want money.
Yes.
When
like Delphine.
Yes, right. But in actuality, it's usually the reverse.
Yes.
Almost always it's the reverse, in fact.
They just want...
Well, no, the others, like the biological people, if you're an adoptee that has done well for themselves, or, a lot of the times you will get reached out to by that family wanting money. I hear about that happening way more often than the reverse.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely. So that's all. Let's stew on it.
Something to ponder.
Indeed.
While we take a break.
Indeed.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Genes, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay. So before the break, we were talking about people reaching out to biological people for money, or people are afraid that they want money.
Yes.
Right. So here's a story I came across just this week. A British aristocrat, Charles Rogers, died in August of 2018, and it was believed there was no heir to inherit his sprawling $60 million country estate in Cornwall, England.
That is a shame. I remember how I said I didn't have a DNA test. I did take a DNA test, and I am related to this Cornwall man.
Too late, my friend,
Damn.
because... So that's before a DNA test was carried out on the 62-year-old lord of the manor who overdosed in his car at the Penrose estate following decades of hard drug use.
Oh, my God.
In a remarkable twist, the results showed that Rogers did, in fact, have an heir, struggling care worker Jordan Adlard Rogers, 31, from the nearby town of Portleven. He reportedly grew up in a council house, which is like...
An orphanage, or?
No, a council house is like government housing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and suffered long periods of financial hardship. He's now quit his job and moved into the estate with partner Katie Hubbard, 30, and their newborn son, Joshua.
Wow. Well, that's something out of a storybook, isn't it?
It is. To cap it all off, he reportedly receives a $1,300 a week trust fund.
$1,300 a week?
A week.
Wow. In addition to the castle that he's living in.
That he's living in. So Charles, his father, never actually lived in the estate. He lived in one of the farmhouses on the estate because his mother lived in the house. And his brother was also next in line to inherit it. Okay, so this is interesting. But the mother and Charles, his father, died within 2 weeks of each other.
Oh.
And so technically, if he didn't have any heirs, the estate should have gone to his brother.
Okay.
But if he had heirs, it goes to him. It's just like in the royal family.
Right.
So the brother doesn't get the estate.
Ugh.
The kid does. It had gotten to a point where the father had given up on himself and was living in his car instead of his house because it was such a mess. Yikes. So the house is run by historical charity, by the National Trust. because it was gifted the estates by the Rogers family in 1974 in return for a 1,000-year lease to continue living there. So they obviously couldn't pay for it themselves, but that happens a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been turned into a tourist destination. It's got a cafe, walled gardens, cottages, horseback trails, and it boasts a combination of farmland and woodland, an ancient silver mine, and is said to be where King Arthur was mortally wounded and died.
See, folks, all of you who are testing for DNA and trying to look for like parents and things like that, long lost relatives, see what could happen? You could end up with an estate.
I have always questioned whether or not King Arthur was real.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because of the whole, I'm never a big fan of Camelot, the show. So
Me neither, but I'm not sure. Oh, I'm going to hear stuff. Okay.
you mean the rabid Camelot fans that are going to go, how could you not know?
No,
believe
but
in...
people that know. But actually, I would like to know. You guys, so that I don't have to look it up. Was he real? And what is wrong with your dog?
Oh, he's just getting he's shaking
getting
a lot.
antsy?
He's getting very antsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I get it. So let me tell you what this kid was told years ago, that he was the son of this man.
Oh, so
Yeah.
he knew?
So he knew that there was a chance. And in fact, the man the father, Charles, offered to do a DNA test when he was younger, but it didn't happen. And then when he was 18, he knocked on his door and asked if he could have the test, and he told him to do it through a lawyer. And so he didn't do it because he was 18 and he had other priorities. Then he wrote letters in his 20s but never got a reply. Then 3 years ago, he got in contact with the attorney, or the power of attorney, who said Charles didn't want to do the test. He wrote one final letter, and that's when he found out he had died. And they did the test on him after he died. The lawyer did, apparently.
How did they do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh.
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he had just died and so they did, because,
yeah.
it should be done before they're embalmed.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another way to do it, or maybe they already had his DNA somewhere. So it was finally carried out, and Adlard Rogers' life changed forever. Yet it remains a bittersweet event, because people say he's lucky, but he would trade anything to be able to go back and for Charles to know that he was his son. Maybe then he might have taken a different path.
Maybe.
Probably not.
But at least he got a nice estate out of it. That's terrible. I'm not mercenary in any way. I'm just making a joke.
So, yeah, that's interesting. So that could be points for the people who think that people are coming back because they want people's money. Right. But the only person that really lost out here is the uncle. Because if it hadn't been proven that he had an heir, then the brother would have been
that's
the heir.
true. I mean,
that
that's
probably
why,
sucks for him.
That's why back in when you talk about all the intrigue around the royals and the royal family back in the day, they would kill heirs so they could be next in line.
They killed many of them.
Right.
Those two boys in the tower.
Yes, I remember seeing what was this? Some painting of there was someone sneaking into the bedroom of some little child to kill the child. Because
that was the princes in the tower.
Yes. Crazy.
Indeed. Ugh. And we still don't know what happened to them. Did you know that?
Well, I mean, assume they died.
There are rumors that one of them got away and grew up in Ireland. And there was one point when somebody named Perkin Warbeck led a rebellion from Ireland to, I think it was it Richard III? No, Richard III was supposed to have killed him. For Henry VII.
Oh my God! This is like
I know.
Anastasia in Russia.
It is like that. Anyway, I will have a clearer story about that next time we talk.
Okay.
I'm sure. Okay, I have one more thing. I have a book nook.
Oh, book nook.
Yes, this is a follow-up on. Remember, I talked about Verrier's Primal Wound a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So I came across this blog by adoption author Sherry Eldridge. And it caught my attention because I don't have the title of it, but the title caught my attention. So she said for the past
It caught your attention so much that you forgot what it's called?
That I forgot it. I know. I don't know why I didn't put it in here.
What a great title that must be.
I'm a terrible reporter. Okay, so for the last 2 decades in the world of adoption, adoptees clung tenaciously to the book called The Primal Wound by adoptive mom Nancy Verrier. So Sherry Aldridge said, "Thank you, Ms. Verrier, for validation, but you're not even an adopted person. We adoptees are over-the-top confident that our perspectives are much different than yours."
Oh, my.
So
That sounds a little...
it's a tad snarky.
I was going to say bitchy, but all right.
Oh, well, yeah. I just thought it was... I do see her point. I believe that the lay person should not have opinions about how adoptees should feel if they're not an adoptee.
I agree with that as well.
Yes, but
everyone...
she's also a psychologist
Yeah.
and has done extensive work on this and interviewed,
But there are, that's sort of discounting the opinion of someone, or not even the opinion, but the experience of someone who has adopted somebody else, or has given somebody, there's a lot of people in this relationship, and everybody has a different perspective, and they're all valid. Well,
I think because she's writing it about adoptees, and they're the ones who suffer the primal wound. Right. She said, "There's no way you could see adoption nor life through an adopted person's eyes. Our eyes have been shattered by loss of a much different kind. So respectfully, thanks, but bye. Yikes."
There's probably a better way of putting that,
There is, and then I looked at her website a little further and realized something. And here's here's a quote: "No longer do we find comfort in the compromising status of self-validation, for a self-centered life is not how we were created. Instead, our genetic blueprint calls us to sacredly build others up."
Okay.
So...
what's the agenda there?
I believe she's faith-based.
All right.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But she's saying that nobody should write an expert, I'm doing air quotes, book about adoptees, saying that that's the way to get over your adoption or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yet she has her entire thing is faith-based, and that to me, that doesn't talk to me.
Right.
So because I'm not a person of faith.
Well, again, that would be a valid way in to talk about it, but it's certainly not any less valid than or more valid than the one she's attacking, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I went and I looked more. Here was a response somebody wrote. "Did I miss something? Seriously, did Miss Verrier infer that we can't move on from the primal wound? I, for one, was able to start my journey towards healing due to the knowledge this book supplied with me. As for Miss Verrier not being adopted, my son's doctor doesn't have autism, and my dog's vet never had fleas." Good one. "In a world that ignores our pain, I think we should be appreciative of all who help us." Here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
I kind of feel, yeah. So Sherry Aldridge wrote the book, 20 Things Adopted Kids Wish Their Parents Knew. And each chapter is about a certain thing. And they're legit. Like, birthdays may be difficult for me. I want you to take the initiative in opening up conversations about my birth family. When I act out my fears and obnoxious ways, please hang in there with me. There all of those things are legit and insightful. But then... it looks like she went on to write a series of 20 things books. And it becomes more and more faith-based. And her site is wrought with biblical quotes and references to God. And, and like I said, if you're a person of faith, of that particular faith, then great, good for you. But I don't know. That's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black to me.
There's a whole movement saying that you can't write something that's not from your own personal background. Like, I could not write a book about... It's like saying I couldn't write a book about my dog because I'm not the dog.
Because you're not the dog.
But
yes.
That's almost
so
saying...
everything is autobiographical, apparently.
Like you can't write... And I get there's a sense of like... People don't want you to appropriate their culture.
Yes.
And
talk about or judge your experience if they haven't been in your shoes.
Right. And so that's valid, but that also discounts imagination when you're making up when you're writing something of fiction,
Yep.
or research. For any book
Right.
that's been written about a biography of somebody that died hundreds of years ago. Yeah, you didn't live back then. You're recreating that world, and
Right.
so I don't know. I hate when somebody puts a blanket statement like, how dare you write this book about adoptees when you're not an adoptee? Well, maybe I did a lot of research, and maybe I'm a psychologist, and I interviewed people.
This is a revered book, too.
Yeah.
So I thought it was, she's Sherry Eldridge is obviously a somewhat successful author, too. But it's, it seems very formulaic to me. And, I don't know, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
So this is a book, Nook, a book you don't really recommend.
Well, you know what? If anybody has read the 20 Things books, especially the first one, I haven't, and frankly, I don't have time to right now because I'm reading too many others. Let me know about it, and maybe if you recommend it, maybe I'll try reading it.
Okay.
How about that?
I say we take a break.
I agree.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. That's me.
All right, story time.
Yay! This is the last part, right, of Jenna Robertson?
This is the last part of Jenna Robertson's. We left off, she had confirmed who her biological father was, and she had a half-sister, and when she presented the facts, she also came up with a list of non-negotiables, which it is not as serious as it sounds, but but I thought it was really interesting and relatable. So have a listen, and we'll see you on the other side.
I sent her an email, and I said, look, I can now place my mom and your dad. I now know pretty confidently that your dad is my dad, and this is how I know, and I texted her. And she emailed me back fairly quickly, and she said, well, that seems kind of definitive. And then I just started telling her about myself. And I told her lots of things that I think I was putting out there. If you're going to reject me for any of these things, these are kind of my non-negotiables. And I didn't say that.
I love that. Okay.
If I'm not good enough because of A, B, and C, then this is just not worth it to me. And that looking back, I know that's what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And the things that I was scared about sharing the most are the things that she immediately replied to. And we have said, me too. And oh my God. And this is my experience. And this is how my parents reacted when I told them about this thing that we share in common, So all of those things that I was most afraid of are the things that made her respond to me quickly and believe me. And
oh, that's amazing.
It was amazing. And she was able to tell me, Julie, I never felt like I missed out not having siblings. That was never anything I wanted. It was never anything I felt I missed. And I was able to tell her I did. I always did want siblings. I always hoped that I had a sister. I always wished for a sister.
Yeah.
And so that now is that's the dynamic that that's how we reach each other now. I'm able to tell her, look, I know that this is not, but you have nieces and nephews and you have people that maybe you never thought you were going to have.
Yeah.
And I'm also able to accept that she's not gushing over all of this because she didn't expect it. She never wanted it. It wasn't anything that she missed.
Right.
So sometimes I get sad online when people say, oh, my sister sent me this, beautiful Mother's Day, whatever. I'm not expecting that, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It still sounds like it's a great connection, though. But we all have different relationships with our bios. Certainly.
Yes, and I got to the point where it's not, it's maybe not with the fantasy that I always had, but getting to know her has been so valuable to me. Amazing things that I would beat myself up about. For example, my temperament. To find out that she shares a similar temperament.
What is that temperament? Just curious.
No. I get angry. I don't hide my feelings. I kind of feel like I was, I was depressed as a kid, and I always felt like that depression kind of came across as being an angry kid.
Okay.
that's just how it manifested itself. And so for somebody else to tell me, this is how I process things and this is how I came across, and I have some guilt because of this. And it was like a mirror. It's like, oh, maybe that wasn't because of, childhood trauma and being moved around a lot. Maybe it wasn't because of some of that. So maybe I'm just
genetics.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It made me, it seriously let me off the hook a little bit emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe I'm not such a bad person. Maybe I'm just wired that way.
Well, clearly you're not a bad person, but so you need to stop that.
You know what I mean. Some of the things that you don't really like about yourself.
Yes.
When you see them in someone else, it's like, oh, maybe there was a reason.
Yeah, I get that completely. I get that when I found my father, there's lots of anxiety and depression on that side. And even suicide.
It's not fun to deal with.
Yeah, but it all makes sense now.
Yes.
Even though, and a lot of people, a lot of people think that my depression and anxiety when I was a kid is because I was adopted and didn't connect with my family, which part of it is probably true. Mm-hmm. But the way it manifests or manifested in me makes so much more sense now.
Me too. That's exactly how I felt. I felt like, and maybe I can stop in a way blaming my mom a little bit for things. You know what I mean? Us moms, we get a bad rap for so many things.
Yeah.
But I try to be compassionate for my mom being a young mom, doing this on her own. And so I was an angry kid. And now I think, maybe that wasn't entirely her fault. Or maybe I wasn't such a jerk kid. Maybe that's just how I was wired. And, maybe if I would have grown up with a sibling who had a similar temperament, maybe we would have just known that, or maybe we would have known how to deal with it. I never got therapy as a kid. I probably should have. I never got.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I absolutely do. So is your father passed?
He is alive and well.
And?
I reached out to my sister first. That was just the choice I made because that relationship was in my personal heart more important than a dad. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to her first, and I told her that I had intended to send him a letter, and she was nervous about that. He's a little older. I'm 46, so you can kind of do some math there. And she just said, I wanted to protect my dad. I just want everything to be okay for him and my mom too. And I got that. I respected it. I understood it. So I wrote a very compassionate note and very short, sweet, made sure he understood. I know he did not know about me.
That is so important. Yeah, I think the letter writing is so important. The more I do this.
Yes. Yeah. And it had to come from me. And it had to come from me, and it had to show him that if he wasn't interested in a relationship, I was fine with that. If he needed time to process it, I was fine with that. And more than anything, I had this connection to him, and I had this connection to his daughter, and I was worried about his wife. I didn't want her to feel like there was some stranger trying to take or do or be anything. Yeah. I didn't need any of those things.
Right.
So I sent a letter, and I included some pictures. I included pictures of my kids. I made sure to include a couple pictures of my biological daughter, more than anything, because maybe he would see a family resemblance there. So I sent those, and I sent them off. And I was smart enough to send it with delivery confirmation.
Good.
That made me a little nervous, but I got the ding that it was in his mailbox, and I just let it go. I was able to just say, whatever happens, happens. However he responds is great. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, was not needing anything specific from him. I think I just wanted to be believed.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't need to be claimed. I didn't need to be told this is my daughter. I didn't need any of that.
Yep.
I wanted to be believed.
Yes.
So that night that I got the ding in the morning that the letter was in his mailbox, and I was emotionally prepared to let that go. That night I got an email from my cousin Karen, the DNA, connection. And she again said, welcome to the family. I got a call from my uncle today. She said he believes you. He accepts it. He's a little overwhelmed. He asked me some questions. And she said, it sounds like he's gonna contact you. And I said, I was able to process it before I heard from him. I was able to know that I was going to get a positive outcome.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
That's really nice that she did that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of a heads up but it wasn't so involved that I knew what he was going to say, but I just knew, this is going to be okay.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not going to sting.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
So exactly a week after he got my letter, I got his letter, and it was perfect. It was kind, and it had a family picture in there, and he told me he hoped that we could talk on the phone, which was probably the most nerve-wracking thing of all.
Yeah.
To hear his voice and that he wanted to talk with me.
Yeah.
He asked when a good time was, and so it was very respectful. I emailed him immediately and told him thank you and told him when a good time was, and we talked that night. Talked for a good half hour. It was a little nerve-wracking. I was trying to tell him, my whole 46 years in about a half an hour conversation.
Right.
But it was perfect for what I needed. I got out of it exactly what I needed, that he believed me, that he remembered my mom, that he left the area shortly after he had worked with my mom. And so he had no reason to ever cross paths with her or anybody that would have even suspected or known.
Yeah.
And there was no reason for him to know.
Yeah.
There wasn't.
Right. Oh, God, what a relief. How long ago was this now?
It has been about 2 months now.
Oh,
so still
really
fresh.
Recently? Yeah.
Yes, we're still getting to know each other. We're still exchanging questions to each other and talking. We've just recently broached the subject of maybe meeting, maybe visiting. I'm in Las Vegas, so that might happen. Or
how far away is he?
He is still in Michigan. He's in Lower Michigan.
Okay.
So, but I still have family up in Upper Michigan. Now I have family in Lower Michigan. So it's definitely a possibility we could maybe take a family vacation. I don't know. It's all still new. It's positive. I want to say we had a happy ending, but the truth is it's not the ending yet. It's kind of like the beginning,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I'm dying to hear the rest of, whenever that happens. But I feel good about it. I hope you do too. It sounds like it.
I do feel good. And you know what? I think that if I could say anything to people kind of starting this journey is that I did this kind of mystery thing. I want to say that I did it on my own. I solved my own mystery, but I really didn't. I had help from my cousin who thankfully knew what she was doing. And you hear the term search angel a lot. You hear, people online can help you. And it's, you don't want to give away your personal information sometimes so much. But I felt really lucky that I had someone on my side who knew what they were doing. I feel like I solved it on my own, but she definitely supported my conclusions, and she was able to help me look where to research. So that was awesome.
Yes. I mean, she was definitely an important component in the whole thing, huge. But, huge. You drove this train, so.
I did, and I feel really proud of that. And the one thing I wish I could have let go of earlier, because I would have solved my own mystery sooner, was that last name with that cousin who was my first match.
Such a good point. Such a good point.
It hung me up, and it made me put that research down. And it turns out that I was related to her through her grandmother. So her mom was my first cousin through her grandmother. Well, her grandmother's married name was my maiden name.
Right. It just happened to be so, but
it was a total coincidence that we shared that last name.
Yep.
And I thought that was the answer to everything. Mm-hmm. It turned out not to matter in the slightest.
Right. That's why we need to compartmentalize all of our evidence and give it all the same amount of weight, but, don't leave any rocks unturned. And, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even now I'm helping my best friend who kind of helped me come to the conclusion of who I needed to speak to unravel this whole mystery. Mm-hmm. her mother was adopted and had been rejected when she reached out as an adult. And so now we're trying to help her mom kind of find her biological roots through this whole same process that I did for myself. And it's a little harder.
Yeah.
And I'm having trouble now letting go of that name thing because I still find a family connection by the name. And I think, oh, that's the route I need to travel because that's the name.
Right. But then that's when we build our little quick and dirty trees and to see if we can connect, connect up in the tree. That's the best way to do that.
Yep. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a great story.
Oh, thank you for letting me tell it. It feels so good. It kind of feels full circle that I'm able to literally learn from podcasts how to do this work and then be able to tell my story. It's amazing to me. I feel full circle.
Well, it's a great story and you're a great storyteller too, by the way.
Oh,
so
thanks,
Julie. You did definitely all the heavy lifting on this one.
Yay. Thanks.
Yay.
Julie, thank you so much for your time today.
I've loved hearing it. And please keep in touch and tell us how things progress.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Wow.
Cool story, huh?
It was a great story.
Yeah.
I love how you spread it out, making us come back week after week, Julie.
You know, it was very difficult to edit because there were so many interesting things that happened. And I cut out very little of our conversation. And our conversation was well over an hour long, so.
Yeah, well, no, I like coming back for more. I like stories where I have to... I don't ever binge watch anything. I know people can binge do you? People can binge our podcast and go back and listen to the beginning.
Yeah,
they do.
And then they get angry when they catch up. I've discovered.
But I kind of like when something comes out once a week and then I have to wait and I get to be excited about it.
It's like in the olden days.
It is.
When we would wait for Sunday night to watch The Wonderful World of Disney.
Yeah, or like we had to wait the whole summer to find out who shot JR.
Yeah, I never cared.
Oh, that's sacrilege in my house because we lived for that back then.
I never did.
No. The worst part was they came back from the summer and we didn't find out who shot him until like several episodes in. So like it wasn't even that
is so annoying. That's just rude.
You found out that he lived, but like, oh God, spoiler alert for all of you who are streaming Dallas.
I think it's like 40 years ago now that happened.
Yes, I watched it.
We can't take responsibility for spoilers over 10 years.
I watched it from the crib.
All right, tell people about yourself, Rich.
Well, clearly I'm older than 40 now that you've told us how long ago it was that show was on.
I think everybody knew that.
Oh, well, in that case. I'm Richard Castle. I am a songwriter and a musician, I think I am.
You had to really think about that.
I did have to think about what else am I? Pain in the ass. You can view that Pain in the Ass website, richardcastle.com, or you can follow that Pain in the Ass on Twitter at
painintheass.com.
Pain in the Ass. Yeah. No, at Castle Songs.
Please start one that's called at Pain in the Ass. If it hasn't been done, I'm doing it.
And who are you, Julie?
Oh, I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. On Twitter, I am at Jules Jackson, one word, 2 O's. The podcast is at Cutoff Jeans Pod. On Facebook, we have a group called Cutoff Jeans Podcast. It's a private group, but ask to join, and I'll probably let you in. I almost did that without stumbling over my tongue.
I mean, honestly, have you ever not let anyone in? Has anyone asked?
Yes.
Really?
People who don't answer the question, and or people who do answer the question, but they just write DNA. So they don't speak the language, but they know it's about or genes or something. You can tell that they're.
So you're trying to keep out the trolls.
Yes, I get a lot of people that just want to be in a group to post spam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we do it, guys.
I've not seen any spam, so you're doing a good job.
Of course I am. Why is there a question?
Well, I have one more question.
What is that?
Where's my truth?
The truth is in your jeans.